Your podcast has a fantastic logo. Maybe you've got a color palette that you absolutely adore, but I would bet that there's something wrong with your podcast's brand. In fact, I would be willing to bet that most podcasters out there, especially independent podcasters, do something very specifically incorrect when it comes to their brand. That's what we're going to talk about today. I just want to give a shout out to the big podcast marketing tutorial that this is a part of. It's part of a series of content that we're producing that just helps you with your podcast marketing, helps you to grow your podcast. So I want you to go and check that out at captivate.fm/marketing. Captivate.fm/marketing. Please go and check that out because it is the ultimate guide to marketing your podcast. So I used to be in branding. I used to own a brand agency. It was called Hacksaw, and we worked with clients from all over the world. We worked with grassroots businesses, we worked with startups, solopreneurs, we worked with established businesses, and we worked with global brands. And one thing really stood out. One thing that the global brands really understood that the independent trader very rarely understood. And it's a mistake that I see podcasters making every single day. And that is all to do with podcast branding. It's all to do with this idea that a brand is what you see. A brand is what you develop visually. A brand, they believe, are the colors, the fonts, the cover art, the logos that you see. And very often what happens is a podcaster puts so much time and effort into what their product will look like that they forget one core component of branding, the central tenet of branding that should appeal and should apply to all podcasts as well as all businesses. And that is how you want to make your audience feel. Think of any brand that you know and love. The reason that you buy that brand, the reason that you are in love with that brand is very rarely to do with the product. It's very rarely to do with the price. It's very rarely to do with the color palette. It's very rarely to do with the logo, the typefaces. It's actually to do with the experience. It's to do with how that brand makes you feel. Think of your favorite restaurant. They could change the entire color palette. They could change the design of the menus, and they could change everything about their entire social media presence. But as long as you had the same experience, that very thing that made that restaurant your favorite in the first place, as long as that was maintained, none of the other changes would matter. Brand is about experience. It's about how you make people feel. There's a very specific reason that here with me and with my own brand, I'm very straight talking. I cut out a lot of the BS. I don't give you things in uncertain terms. I work with you as a podcaster to say, let's try this. And then if it doesn't work for you, let's measure it, test it, and figure out what does work. I want to give you that hand holding. I want to put my arm around you and say, let's do this together. That's the experience that I choose to give you. Now, it doesn't matter what my logo looks like. You'll see the logo in the bottom corner of the video. You'll see the audio at the beginning of my podcast. All of this stuff kind of doesn't matter because what I'm giving you is the experience. I could change my YouTube lighting. I could change the place that I recorded my audio. I could change the levels. I could change the entire structure of my podcast, and it wouldn't matter. The experience would still be the same. And the point is that is usually missing from so many podcasters' brands. The reason that it's missing is because it's really hard to figure out. It's really hard to figure out how you want to make people feel. It's very difficult to get across and parlay what you want people to take away from any of your content, whether it's a podcast, a video, a written piece. It's very difficult to parlay in simple terms how you want people to feel. But it's an exercise that is core to your brand, and it's something that I want you to do. Your podcast is more than the audio. Sure, that's the most popular component of it. It's the one thing that people will stick around for. But the brand starts with how you want to make people feel. How will people feel after they have listened to your content? Will they feel uplifted, entertained? Will they feel happy? Will they feel impacted? Will they feel educated? What will they feel? Okay. And as part of your branding process, if you're working with a designer, and I know this from owning a branding agency for years and years and years, the best briefs begin with that feeling. Okay, how do we want people to feel when they interact with our product, our business? I want people to feel supported. And when we build Captivate.fm, the podcast hosting platform. I want people to feel like it's easy, like we have their back, like when you are launching your podcast, we are there with you every step of the way. If you are moving your podcast in from another podcast host, I want you to feel like we are there making it very, very simple for you, and that the next step in your evolution is to grow your audience. We give you that feeling. That's the part of the Captivate brand. Ask yourself this: what are you doing to parlay the experience that you want your listeners to have of your brand? What are you doing to make sure that everything that you design visually, from an audio sound design perspective, maybe even from a video perspective, what are you doing as a podcaster to make sure that your brand is about feeling? How are you making people feel? Think about that. I assure you, many podcasters get it wrong, and those that succeed in podcasting get it very, very right. Make your decision today. Do you want to get this wrong, or do you want to give people the experience of a lifetime? Do you want to make sure that they experience your podcast in a way that will turn them into super fans? Decide, because your brand is central to everything that you do.